Have you ever sat alone in your favorite chair, the afternoon sun slipping quietly across the floor, and suddenly remembered a moment when your child looked away, not out of anger, but out of quiet hurt? A phrase you said without thinking, a sentence that carried the weight of love, but landed like a stone. Does that memory still echo in your heart? Perhaps you meant to share wisdom or to feel closer. But sometimes what we hope will bring us together ends up pushing them away. Not because we're wrong, but because we didn't realize the power of the words we chose. As we grow older, we carry so much inside. Years of sacrifice, of love unspoken, of trying to protect our children, even from themselves. But in trying to connect, a few small phrases, said in pain or habit or frustration, can quietly build walls instead of bridges. So if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, and you sometimes wonder why the phone doesn't ring as often, why the visits feel shorter, this reflection may offer a gentle light. Let's sit together for a few quiet minutes, not to assign blame, but to understand, to learn 5 common phrases that hurt more than they help, and how we can replace them with something softer, stronger, more loving. If this message resonates with you already, let me know in the comments. And if you're open to more reflections like this, I'd be honored if you subscribed. Now, let's begin. 1. Toxic phrase. After everything I've done for you, picture this. You're talking with your parent. Maybe things are a little tense. Maybe it's just a normal chat. And then suddenly the air shifts, thickens somehow, with those familiar heavy words. Well, after everything I've done for you. Doesn't that phrase just land differently? It has this uncanny ability to change the whole feeling in the room instantly. What might have started as a simple conversation, or even a minor disagreement, suddenly feels loaded, tangled up with years and years of history. The real issue here, the reason it often feels so uncomfortable, is how it subtly twists the beautiful, selfless act of parenting into something that sounds more like a transaction, almost like a business deal. Think about all those years of care, the sleepless nights, the packed lunches, the unwavering support through thick and thin. These were almost always acts of love, given freely from the heart. Yet this single phrase has the power to reframe them, making them seem like items on an invisible invoice. It creates this unspoken sense that you now owe something significant back, a debt you never consciously agreed to and, let's be honest, could never truly repay. How could anyone possibly put a price tag on being raised, on all that time and energy? It's an impossible calculation, and perhaps that's the hidden function of the phrase. It isn't always about getting something specific in return. Often its power lies in making you feel guilty or obligated, maybe even a little smaller in that moment. Over time, this feeling can curdle into resentment because it carries the implication that the love and care you received weren't entirely unconditional. It suggests there were hidden strings attached, a price tag lurking beneath the surface all along. It's almost like taking that pure, flowing spring of parental love and diverting it into a cold, calculating ledger book. This kind of thinking can subtly poison the connection, replacing the potential for easy affection with a heavy sense of duty. It becomes a form of emotional leverage, using the past to try and control the present, and it rarely builds bridges. More often than not, it just leads to defensiveness and emotional distance. But imagine if we could change that dynamic. What happens when that phrase simply isn't used? There's a real promise in letting it go, a chance for something much healthier to grow. When parents choose a different way to express their needs, or when we as adult children learn not to get pulled in by the guilt, the whole relationship can breathe easier. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. That heavy feeling of obligation starts to lift. In its place, you find space for genuine mutual respect and real affection to flourish. Think about the difference it makes. Instead of hinting at past sacrifices, a parent might say something direct and vulnerable like, "I've been feeling a bit lonely lately and would really love to hear from you." That kind of honesty invites connection rather than demanding compliance through guilt. When that pressure is off, adult children often find they want to connect more. They want to show appreciation and offer support freely from the heart, not out of a sense of duty. This shift allows the relationship itself to mature. It acknowledges that everyone involved is an adult with their own lives and perspectives. It opens the door for honest conversations built on understanding instead of manipulation. Letting go of that transactional language lets everyone see each other more clearly, right here and now. It fosters a bond based on the present reality, not just a constant tallying of the past. Kindness and support can then flow much more naturally in both directions. This really highlights a fundamental truth about families. Parenting at its best is truly a gift given freely. It involves planting seeds, nurturing growth, and hoping for the best without expecting a specific return on investment down the line. All those acts of love and care weren't items on a balance sheet. They were simply expressions of love. Of course, parents hope for connection and respect from their adult children. But healthy relationships thrive when these things grow organically, from genuine feeling, not from constant reminders of a supposed debt. Building a relationship on guilt using past sacrifices as leverage is like building on unstable ground. It might seem to work for a while, but it's fragile, always at risk of crumbling under the weight of unspoken feelings. Strong, lasting bonds between parents and adult children need a solid foundation. That foundation is built with mutual respect, honest communication, and genuine love. It means we can appreciate the past and be grateful for it, absolutely. But we don't have to let it be used as a weapon today. Letting go of, after everything I've done for you, isn't about forgetting what happened back then. It's about freeing the relationship now to be defined by something far more positive and enduring, like authentic connection. Second toxic phrase, you never visit, call me. There's a phrase often spoken with a sigh by parents we love dearly that carries the surprising power to make us feel instantly guilty, misunderstood, and maybe even a little resentful. You know the one I mean, right? It often starts with picking up the phone after a busy week, or maybe during a visit that feels overdue, and then you hear it, you never visit me anymore, or you never call. Doesn't that single word, never, just land with a heavy thud in your stomach? Even when you know, deep down, it probably comes from a place of genuine loneliness or simply missing you, the way it's delivered often sparks an immediate, almost involuntary reaction inside us. It's that slight tightening in your chest, isn't it? That little flare of defensiveness that whispers, but that's not fair. That's not true. Because the real issue with using these absolute words, never, or its equally tricky twin, always, is how drastically they can paint a picture that feels fundamentally distorted and unfair. They act like a giant, sweeping negation of any effort you might have actually made. Maybe you called just last Tuesday, perhaps you spent a whole afternoon there the month before, but the word never arrives like an emotional bulldozer, flattening those instances and leaving behind only a stark landscape of perceived failure and neglect. And what happens when we feel unfairly accused? We defend ourselves naturally. The moment that never hits our ears, our brains often leap into action, searching for the receipts, the proof to counter the claim. But Mom, I did call, remember? Dad, I was literally just there. Suddenly, what could have been a moment to connect over a feeling of longing becomes a courtroom drama about dates and times. You're caught in this frustrating loop, a classic no-win situation. You feel attacked and misunderstood, maybe even a little guilty despite knowing you have tried. Meanwhile, your parent might feel even more dismissed or unheard because their opening statement was immediately shot down. It's a cycle that doesn't just create awkwardness in the moment, it subtly sows seeds of anxiety and resentment for the future. Every missed call starts to feel heavier. Every busy weekend carries a potential guilt tax. Haunted by the ghost of never, you might start to feel like you're walking on eggshells, or worse, that no matter what you do, it will simply never be enough to meet this invisible, ever-shifting standard. The relationship, instead of being a safe harbor, starts to feel like an ongoing performance review where you're perpetually falling short. The sheer emotional weight of never is immense. It doesn't just erase past efforts. It casts a long, discouraging shadow over the present and makes future connection feel daunting. It's like throwing up an instant wall, blocking the natural flow of empathy that could have existed. It takes a potentially valid, vulnerable feeling, I'm lonely, or I miss our time together, and weaponizes it into an all-encompassing accusation that backs the listener into a corner, making them feel powerless to fix the perceived deficit. Instead of bridging the gap, these absolute statements dig the trenches deeper, fostering distance where closeness was likely the original desire. But here's the hopeful part, the pivot towards something much more constructive. Imagine, instead of that accusatory, never, hearing something different. Picture your parents saying, with genuine vulnerability, "You know, I've been feeling a bit lonely lately, and I really miss hearing your voice." Or perhaps, "It would honestly make my day if you had some time to swing by this weekend, even just for a little while. I miss catching up properly." Can you feel the difference? It's huge. These statements express the exact same underlying need, the desire for connection. But they do it by opening a door instead of building a wall. They share a personal feeling, "I feel," without assigning blame or resorting to exaggeration. It's this very vulnerability, this honest sharing of an internal state, that acts as an invitation for empathy and understanding. It creates the space for a real conversation, one where you might feel safe enough to share your own pressures. "Things have been crazy at work, Mom, but how about I call you Tuesday evening and work together towards a solution that feels good for everyone, rather than getting stuck defending your track record?" This really highlights a crucial shift we can all make in our important relationships. Focus on expressing our own feelings rather than launching accusations. Making that simple switch from "you never" or "you always" to "I feel" is transformative. "I feel lonely" shares your experience. "You never" call points a finger and assigns fault. One invites connection, the other invites conflict. And just as importantly, taking a moment to acknowledge the efforts that are being made, even if they feel insufficient sometimes, works wonders. A simple, "Thanks for calling the other day, honey. It was lovely to chat, even though I know you're swamped," validates the effort and encourages more of it. It builds bridges. Those absolute accusations, they just build walls. Ultimately, isn't the goal to foster relationships where we feel seen, understood, and loved? Where we can share our needs and feelings openly without fear? Letting go of those loaded nevers and always, and embracing the power of "I feel," coupled with genuine acknowledgement, is a powerful step towards building exactly those kinds of connections, the ones that truly nourish us. Third, toxic phrase, "Your spouse is turning you against me." All right, let's tackle another one of those phrases that can feel less like a conversation starter and more like emotional dynamite being lobbed into your life. Building on that feeling of being misunderstood we talked about with "you never call," imagine dialing that intensity way up. Picture this. Maybe things have felt a bit strained, or perhaps there's just a quiet undercurrent of hurt. And then your parent looks at you, their voice heavy, and delivers this zinger. "Your spouse is turning you against me." Oof. Feel that? It lands like a punch to the gut, doesn't it? This phrase doesn't just cause a sting, it feels like it explodes on impact, sending emotional shrapnel flying towards your most vital relationships. It's widely considered pure relationship poison, and for very clear reasons. It moves far beyond a simple complaint or expressing loneliness. It's an accusation so loaded, so potentially destructive, it can fundamentally alter the landscape of your family. So what exactly makes this particular sentence carry such destructive power? Let's carefully unpack the layers of damage it inflicts. First and foremost, it's a direct assault on your partner, the person you chose, the one you love and trust, the individual you're building a life alongside. It doesn't merely suggest your parent dislikes them. It paints your partner as a calculating villain, actively scheming to sever your connection to your family of origin. Imagine the feeling of hearing the person you share your deepest vulnerabilities and dreams with described as a malicious force bent on isolating you. Naturally, your defenses shoot up, not just to protect yourself, but fiercely to protect them. But the poison spreads further than just targeting your partner. It simultaneously delivers a massive insult directly to you. Think about the underlying message when your parent says your spouse is turning you against them. It implies that you're weak-willed, easily manipulated, incapable of independent thought or managing your own relationships. It dismisses your judgment, your autonomy, and your very capacity as an adult navigating the world. In essence, they're suggesting you're merely a puppet, and your partner's the one pulling the strings. This chips away at your confidence, sows seeds of doubt about your own choices, and fundamentally questions your ability to lead your own life. Because it attacks both your partner and your own judgment in this way, this accusation inevitably forces you into an agonizing, impossible position. Suddenly, you're trapped in an emotional no man's land, caught in a brutal tug-of-war between two people you love. If you defend your spouse, which is often the natural, loving instinct, you risk being seen as proving your parent's point. This can lead to more accusations, tears, or that dreadful heavy silence. Yet if you try to placate your parent, perhaps by creating a little distance from your partner or downplaying their influence, you end up betraying the person you've committed your life to, potentially damaging the trust that forms the very bedrock of your partnership. It's a classic lose-lose scenario, seemingly designed, whether consciously or not, to force an unbearable choice. How can anyone choose between their parent and their partner without feeling like a part of them is being torn away? Consequently, the stress generated by this dynamic is simply immense. It seeps into every interaction, turning potentially happy occasions into minefields. Family dinners can become tense strategy sessions rather than relaxed gatherings. Phone calls feel heavy, fraught with unspoken accusations lurking beneath the surface. Holidays, instead of being joyful times of connection, can transform into delicate balancing acts requiring constant vigilance. You might find yourself perpetually trying to mediate, acting as an emotional translator, or walking on eggshells just to maintain a fragile peace, an exhausting, often thankless role that leaves you feeling utterly depleted and resentful. And this constant stress isn't just exhausting in the moment, it carves a deep and lasting wound. This accusation goes far beyond hurt feelings over missed visits. It feels like a direct attempt to sabotage your chosen family unit, to drive a wedge into the very heart of your adult life and primary relationship. It fundamentally questions the validity and strength of the most significant bond you forged. And by doing so, it questions you, your choices, your happiness, your identity as an independent adult. It's akin to someone trying to saw off the very tree branch where you've carefully built your home. The potential for long-term damage here is devastating. Trust, once shattered by such accusations, is incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible, to fully repair. The parent-child bond, strained under this constant pressure and suspicion, can become distant, superficial, or, in the most painful outcomes, completely severed as the child eventually withdraws to protect their own mental well-being and the sanctity of their partnership. It's a bleak picture, isn't it? But thankfully, recognizing the destructive potential also illuminates the path away from it. Imagine the profound difference, the sheer power inherent in choosing not to voice this accusation. What happens when a parent, even while feeling lonely, confused, or perhaps genuinely seeing less of their child, resists the urge to blame the spouse? What if they approach the situation with respect and a genuine desire to understand instead? Avoiding this toxic phrase is like choosing peace over war. It acts as a powerful shield, protecting the parent-child relationship from that devastating, often irreparable strain we've just explored. More than just avoiding damage, however, this choice actively demonstrates love, trust, and respect. It respects you as an adult, respects the choices you've made, and crucially, respects the primary partnership you've formed. It acknowledges the natural and healthy evolution of family dynamics. When you build your own life with a partner, that person rightly becomes your primary teammate and confidant. This doesn't diminish the importance of the parent-child bond, but it honors the established structure of your adult life. Accepting this reality, rather than fighting against it, is what opens the door to harmony. It creates the necessary space for all the important relationships in your life to breathe, coexist, and even thrive, allowing you to feel supported rather than torn. And the reason avoiding this phrase fosters such harmony comes down to this key concept. Attacking or undermining your child's spouse is almost always perceived as attacking your child and the life they have carefully constructed. Your partner isn't just some external figure. They are intrinsically woven into the fabric of your daily life and identity now. Therefore, criticism or blame directed at them feels deeply personal because it is personal. It inherently questions your judgment, your values, and your happiness. Conversely, showing respect for your partner, even if there isn't perfect agreement on everything, translates directly into respect for you. It sends a clear message. I trust your choices. I honor the independent life you are building. Ultimately, maintaining a strong and trusting parent-child connection, especially once you've formed your own family unit, hinges on the parent's ability to respect the priority and sanctity of that unit. It requires letting go of the need to remain the absolute epicenter of your child's world and embracing a new dynamic where love and connection can flourish across different, equally vital relationships. Choosing support, or at the very least, peaceful acceptance of the partnership over suspicion and blame, is the foundation upon which continued closeness and trust can be reliably built, ensuring the relationship doesn't just survive this new chapter, but actually deepens and flourishes within it. Fourth, toxic phrase, "You'll regret it when I'm gone." Have you ever been stopped cold by words that feel less like communication and more like a devastating emotional checkmate, leveraging the very fact of mortality against you? We've navigated phrases that sting with implied criticism or explode with accusations, but now we arrive at one that taps into the deepest, most universal truth of our existence: the fact that our time together is finite. Picture this: a moment of tension, a request denied, or perhaps just a quiet conversation, and then it lands, heavy and chilling. "You'll regret it when I'm gone." Just feel the weight of that sentence. It plunges straight past everyday disagreements into the profound territory of life, death, and anticipated grief. This isn't merely expressing sadness or a wish for more connection. It's a phrase that explicitly weaponizes mortality. It takes the natural, often unspoken awareness of eventual loss, something that could ideally foster tenderness and appreciation, and twists it into potent emotional leverage. It functions like a form of emotional blackmail, using the certainty of future absence to manipulate present behavior. The underlying message isn't "I value our time," but rather, "You owe me this time, and if you fail to provide it, your future conscience will punish you mercilessly." It's a tactic designed to induce guilt and fear, forcing compliance through the threat of unbearable future sorrow. The problem with this approach is multi-layered and deeply damaging to the relationship it claims to want to preserve. Firstly, it fundamentally shifts the dynamic from one based on love, choice, and mutual affection to one built on obligation, fear, and preemptive guilt. Trust inevitably erodes when interactions feel coerced rather than freely chosen. How can you trust that a request for your time comes from a place of genuine desire for your company, rather than an attempt to bank non-regret points or simply exert control? It fosters a pervasive anxiety, a constant low-humming dread that you're perpetually falling short, that no amount of time or attention will ever be enough to stave off the predicted future regret. You might find yourself constantly second-guessing your decisions, measuring your actions not by present joy or connection, but by their potential to cause future pain. Furthermore, there's a cruel paradox at play. While the phrase is ostensibly uttered to pull you closer, to ensure your presence, its manipulative nature often achieves the exact opposite. Faced with this kind of emotional coercion, this constant reminder of impending loss framed as your future fault, many people instinctively create distance. It's a defense mechanism against feeling constantly burdened and emotionally manipulated. Engaging starts to feel too costly, too heavy, overshadowed by the looming specter of guilt. Instead of fostering warmth, spontaneity, and genuine connection, it can lead to avoidance, strained interactions, or dutiful but resentful compliance. Children, even adult children, may pull away simply to find breathing room, to escape the suffocating weight of the emotional blackmail, even if it means sacrificing moments that could, under different circumstances, be genuinely positive. And isn't there a particular, piercing sadness in this? The knowledge that our time with loved ones is limited is perhaps the most powerful motivator we have to truly cherish them, to be present, to forgive shortcomings, and to express love openly. To see that precious awareness, the very thing that makes our connection so meaningful, twisted into a tool for manipulation, feels like a profound misuse of life's poignant reality. It focuses energy on coercing behavior through fear of the future, rather than on cultivating joy and authentic connection in the present. It takes the sacredness of time and turns it into ammunition. But recognizing the toxicity also illuminates a healthier, more loving path forward, the promise of what could be. Imagine replacing that heavy threat with genuine, vulnerable expression. What if, instead of, "You'll regret it when I'm gone," the sentiment was voiced as, "These family moments mean so much to me, and I truly cherish the time we get to spend together." Or, "I've been missing you lately, and I was really hoping we could connect soon because our relationship is so important to me." This kind of communication invites closeness rather than demanding it under duress. It speaks from the heart, expressing a desire for connection based on love, mutual enjoyment, and genuine appreciation. It fosters warmth and encourages the other person to respond from a place of authentic willingness and affection, not from a place of fear, obligation, or a desperate attempt to avoid future guilt. It builds the relationship on positive foundations, making shared time a source of joy, not anxiety. This leads us directly to the key concept that underpins all healthy, thriving relationships. Authentic, enduring connections are built on a foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and genuine affection, never on obligation, manipulation, or fear. You simply cannot guilt or frighten someone into a truly loving, close bond. That kind of connection must be nurtured through positive interactions, empathy, and the free offering of time and affection. The undeniable reality of mortality should serve as a profound inspiration to cherish the present, to deepen our bonds through authentic sharing and mutual support, not as a weapon to coerce attention or compliance. Choosing to express our needs and desires for connection directly and positively, respecting the autonomy and feelings of our loved ones, is how we honor the preciousness of time and build relationships that are not only strong, but also genuinely life-affirming. 5. Toxic phrase, "In my day, we did things differently." All right, let's talk about that seemingly innocent phrase, the one often delivered with a nostalgic sigh that can instantly, almost magically, turn a warm family chat into an unspoken, slightly awkward competition. "Back in my day, we did things differently." Sound familiar? It's like the unofficial theme song for generational differences, often popping up when you're talking about how you're raising your kids, navigating your career, using that newfangled gadget, or even just how you load the dishwasher. On the surface, it seems harmless enough, right? Just a statement about the past, a bit of reminiscing, maybe even an attempt to share some hard-earned wisdom or connect over shared human experiences. It might be said with the best intentions, a genuine desire to help, or simply to remember a time the parent understood better. But despite its often benign appearance, this phrase usually carries more weight than a simple historical observation. It subtly, yet effectively, sets up a comparison, and often an unspoken competition between generations. The hidden message underneath isn't just "things were different," but often "things were better," or "my way was the right way," implicitly putting the past on a pedestal and suggesting that current methods or choices are somehow lacking or inferior. And this is where the real trouble starts brewing. Instead of fostering connection through shared stories of being human across time, it positions the parent as a critic rather than a supportive ally. When you're grappling with the complexities of modern life, raising kids in a world vastly different from the one you grew up in, building a career in rapidly changing industries, managing finances with new tools and pressures, hearing "back in my day" can feel like your efforts, intelligence, and circumstances are being dismissed. It can feel invalidating, as if your struggles or choices aren't being understood or respected within their own contemporary context. Naturally, this often triggers a defensive reaction. You might feel the need to justify your choices, explain present-day realities, or simply shut down the conversation to avoid feeling judged or belittled. It's exhausting to constantly feel like you have to defend your way of life against a nostalgic, often idealized version of the past. Think about the missed opportunity here. There's such rich potential for connection when generations share stories. Hearing about how things used to be done can be fascinating, grounding, even helpful. But when those stories are framed as subtle critiques, we managed just fine without all these fancy things. We were tougher back then. The bridge of shared history crumbles under the weight of judgment. Instead of feeling closer through understanding the flow of experience, a gap is created. What a waste to turn potential bonding moments, sharing perspectives on parenting challenges, career pivots, or societal shifts, into subtle battlegrounds where modern approaches are implicitly put on trial. The parent, perhaps intending to offer guidance, inadvertently pushes their adult child away by making them feel inadequate or misunderstood. So, what's the game changer? How can parents share their valuable life experience without triggering these negative reactions? The transformative shift lies in moving from comparison to curiosity. Instead of stating how things were done, often with that undertone of superiority, imagine approaching the situation with genuine interest in how things are done now. Think about the power of asking open-ended questions. Wow, parenting looks so different today. What do you find are the biggest challenges? Or, it's fascinating how you're navigating your career path. Tell me more about that. Or even simply, I did that differently. Can you explain why this way works better for you now? This shift to curiosity does something magical. It diffuses the tension. Asking questions shows respect. It signals that you value your adult child's perspective and acknowledge their competence in navigating their own life and times. It validates their experience rather than implicitly criticizing it. When someone feels genuinely heard and respected, their defenses naturally lower. They become far more open, not only to sharing their own experiences, but also, crucially, to hearing about yours. By showing genuine interest in their world, how does that new technology work? What's the thinking behind that parenting technique? You create a climate of mutual respect where your own experiences can be shared when invited or relevant rather than imposed. Ironically, showing interest in their way often makes them more interested in yours. You might find them asking you, "So how did you handle sleepless nights back then?" Or, "What was the job market like when you were starting out?" Opening the very door you were previously trying to push open. This leads us straight to the heart of the matter. The goal should be connection, not correction. When interacting with adult children, prioritizing the relationship itself over the need to be right or to prove the superiority of past methods is paramount. Showing fundamental respect for their choices and autonomy as independent adults navigating their own lives is the bedrock of a healthy, evolving parent-child relationship. This doesn't mean you have to agree with every choice they make, but it does mean acknowledging their right to make those choices and trusting their ability to manage their lives. When adult children feel respected, seen, and not constantly judged against a historical benchmark, they are far more likely to stay open, engaged, and connected. There's a quiet kind of courage in unlearning what we once believed was love, in choosing connection over control, in letting silence carry compassion instead of resentment, and in realizing that the words we leave behind may echo far longer than we ever imagined. As we grow older, perhaps the most beautiful gift we can give our children is not advice, but the feeling of being safe, heard, and respected in our presence. Not every conversation needs to be a lesson. Sometimes the gentlest, "I'm here and I care," speaks more than 1,000 words. Sometimes being the safe harbor means simply lowering the sails and listening to the wind. So if today's reflection stirred something in you, take a moment to breathe, to soften, to maybe rewrite the words you've carried for too long. And if you'd like to keep walking this path of grace and growth with us, you're always welcome here. Subscribe or share this with someone whose heart might be waiting for a message like this. Thank you for spending this time with me. Be kind to your words, and gentler still with your love.